Okay, great. I'll call to order this meeting of the Robinson School Building Committee for Tuesday, March 18th. Um, we will start with a moment for public comment. I'll give anybody a minute to join from the audience. I don't see anybody. Okay, and we'll move on to, there's two meeting minutes I'd like to clean up so we can stay on top of things. There's a session from uh, March 4th and from March 12th. I know I just sent these this morning, so if you want to take a minute, or I can share my screen, we could review them if there's any feedback. Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Thanks, Lindsay. And a
Second.
second. Thanks, John. Any final thoughts or feedback? Okay. All those in favor, John Leffers?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Kristen?
Aye.
Dr. Chu?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John Cunningham?
Aye.
And Allison?
Aye.
Thank you. Great. The meeting minutes, obviously, from the Wednesday forum were light, but just wanted to have that. I don't, for anybody that doesn't know, you're kind of required to have minutes from any posted meeting. So just the fulfilling that paper trail that, we met, who was there, what was talked about. Okay. So we've had a couple events since our last meeting.
Just jumping in, do we need to approve those minutes?
We just did, right?
The second one?
Oh, sorry. I took Lindsay's motion as approval for both.
Got it. Okay.
Would you feel more comfortable redoing the vote?
No, I just wanted to make sure we got it.
Okay. Everybody good with that? Sorry, I was not more clear about the motion.
No worries.
Okay. Thank you, though, for asking. So we can just do a quick chat on the events that we've had in the past week. And if you're sick of hearing my voice, please feel free and jump in, those of you that were there. Last Tuesday, we started with the Cameron Senior Center at 2 o'clock. We only had two attendees, but they were very engaged, a very engaged audience, and it was a good dress rehearsal. So we got to kind of go through the slides and got feedback on areas to emphasize and clarify in our messaging and the slideshow. Anything else you want to add there? Those of you that were there with me. Okay.
The only thing I would highlight, and this is for future, that we can do a lot more with PR and press to get the word out about these events. I think we're a little bit light. Maybe the COA could, if we knew something well in advance, the COA could put it in their newsletter as well. So nothing for reactions from last time, just more observations for what we could potentially do next time if Saturday is successful.
Thanks, Kristen. And they publish that newsletter early, like it's 2 months out.
They do, but there might be other avenues. They may have, a listserv that we could get out on. Our communications consultant did, one push, but perhaps we could have done reminders, things like that. I think we're just so engrossed in all the other town meeting press right now as well that this could have been focused a little bit more.
Okay, thanks. Then we also, the next day, we had our open house sort of tours at Wednesday night at Robinson, and the Zoom meeting was available for another information session. We did not have any members of the public join us for those tours. And when we started the Zoom, there was one attendee of from the public joining. That individual had seen the presentation before, and so it was a great chance to jump right into some specific questions that individual was wondering about. I think we had a robust conversation with that person for a few minutes and then closed the Zoom. I think to Kristen's point, what some of the things I've been thinking about as we have these events is what would we do if this is successful and we're having future outreach events in the future. One idea that we were discussing that night was, is it better to have the info session at a set time first and then open for the tours and have the building kind of open after, encouraging people to attend on time, right at the start for the tours. I mean, the info session. Then we also had the League of Women Voters hosts a virtual preview ahead of town meeting every year, for those of you who aren't familiar with that. And they review each article, and the presenters can obviously present each article. So that was last Thursday night. That was well attended with members of the public, and I believe gets a pretty high count of views in preparation for town meeting. So that's a great way for us to have reached a lot of people. There were a couple follow-up. I thought we did a good job. We're trying to stay on track for the 6 minutes guideline for the presentation at town meeting. So that was a good test run. It took us about 11 or 12 minutes to get through the slides. So I'll bring up the slideshow. I've made some edits, but we did get some follow-up questions. One was about the vote. Why was it needed, the 2/3 vote? And Kristen answered that one. And then we got a question about can Robinson be closed? And those students just absorbed without this project, being a rebuild, or a repair. So Dr. Chu answered that, and that was it for engagement. We also had tours on Saturday. As you know, it was one of the first nicer, mild days in March. And we got 2 individuals from the public that showed up. One took a very comprehensive tour, and it was a great experience to be able to bring the building to life. Jeff and I thought, did a great job walking around and answering that individual's comments. And then there was some follow-up questions from a second individual. So overall, some light engagement, but as Dr. Chu pointed out in the school committee meeting last night, the video tour continues to get a lot of views on WestfordCAT's YouTube. And so we're hopeful, I think, that is meeting the need for information.
Yeah, that's now over 400. So that's good that people are engaging with that video. I had one question that I was curious. I was going to actually throw to Steve. On that Wednesday night, one of the questions that came up, which I think will be important, especially if everything is approved on Saturday and we end up moving forward. But Lindsay and I answered the question, but I'd be curious as to your perspective. The person was alluding to what I believe they were talking about, the model school program. So they were wondering if there were designs that exist that we could save money. And so I said, well, I know that in the past, the MSBA has identified different schools that they've worked on that the design firms, I believe they called them model schools, that it was basically like a starting point. And so, yeah, Lindsay, you chimed in too, but I didn't know if Steve, if you were aware if they're still continuing to do that, or.
As far as I remember, the model school system was shut down. Like, they don't do that anymore.
Okay.
That being said, like, most designers are drawing on, for all intent and purposes, past design experience while listening to you, the community, about what they want to see in a school, right? So they want to design a school like in a kind of rural community, looks more like a house, like, if you will, versus kind of pulling in your typical brick and mortar box. But in terms of layout and functionality, for meeting those kind of square foot per student heads that they have to go by from MSBA, they do have some, I'm going to like generically call them cookie cutter systems in place. Like, think that like bubbles, like they're going to come at you with like these bubbles and these nodes, and they're going to do this, we're going to do that. But as far as I'm concerned, I believe the reason why the model school system was shut down is there was really no distinct advantage financially. For it, you also have to remember, like from a reimbursement standpoint, there are things that are eligible and not eligible for reimbursement. As I think my car is beeping. Sorry about that. So it's not necessarily conducive to try to fit a model school on a site that could decrease your reimbursement because of the configurations you're trying to work within. I can navigate that conversation on like Saturday if it comes up, probably more easily, and I'll look into it. It's odd that someone would say the model school if they don't have experience for it, because I thought that program was kind of like 5 or 10 years ago shut down.
I was the one who threw the word out there.
Yeah.
The person was
Yeah.
asking the question,
Huh?
which was leading to it, and I said, it sounds like you're describing the model school program, because that was my experience before I came to Westford, was that the district that I was in, we did
Model
decide
school.
to go that route, and so that's good to know. But yeah, that what you were just saying makes total sense.
Yeah,
What?
they had asked Steve like if there were blueprints that we could basically just like copy and paste and reuse. This is a really good question. I think we answered it perfectly fine too. That there are MSBA design guidelines, and so we will hire through the MSBA design panel an architect that has MSBA school building experience, particularly K-12 building experience, K-8 building experience in districts with similar site conditions such as ours, so that they're not recreating the wheel and there are cost efficiencies in both time and money.
Yeah, very, very fair answer. It's also worth noting, as I'm quickly trying to research model schools, it may not have been shut down. Because I'm seeing the last high school I built is now a model school with SMA.
I think it's
Our
applied
second
to
last high school.
B1. Yeah.
The energy code and the building codes have changed so much every given period that it's not conducive necessarily to, or as simplistic as copy and paste blueprints.
Yeah.
Floor plans is a fair conversation, right? A layout, but they still have to go through that extensive code analysis, bringing 6 inches of insulation versus a previous model school that had a 4-inch thick wall assembly to meet that code 10 years ago. So all that is still taking place. So you're going to have the community, the awarding authority has to pay for.
Yeah, one of the things they got to keep in mind is if you're talking, I think they may have been thinking about previous designs that we've seen or previous designs, that the actual designs are proprietary, and they'll see that in the architectural contract. You just can't use something that you've done before, or piggyback somebody else's design. It's got to be got to be careful with that.
Yep.
I'd also add to the conversation that every site has different topography, different soils, different slopes, and an entrance in one location could be modeled very differently in a different location. Our guidelines related to setbacks and wetlands are also different. So if we are developing talking points of why can't we just copy and paste a building and plop it down, I'd also like to include the land characteristics to that conversation as well. And these buildings and these sites are designed very specifically to those land requirements based upon the entrances, the soil, slopes, shapes, and topography of the property.
Good point.
Great. Thank you for that conversation and reminding us, Dr. Chu, about that. I also wanted to add, as part of our list of outreach things that our previous meetings are now being posted on WestfordCAT. They're Zoom recordings. So I worked with Nick Woodbury to get those, the one we're currently speaking in, will become part of the WestfordCAT government meeting stream. So that's also another way we're getting our information out. Anything I missed there? Okay. I want to bring up the slideshow because I've made some edits based on, like I said, the last couple meetings of using them and the time constraints that we're working with. And I just want another make sure we just have some feedback on them. So some of the areas that I've worked on combining, there was some redundancy between the original slides 2 and 3 about like both myself and Dr. Chu were iterating that it is a requirement for the MSBA. So kind of absorbed that back fully into slide 2. The one of the tours on Saturday also helped me realize that someone looking at these slides may have previously thought that 1.6 million was predominantly for the architect fees only. And so I've added engineer to that sort of sub bullet to make it clear that it's not just a drawing for $1.5 million. And then there was two slides here that Dr. Chu was speaking about for the feasibility study, basically what is a feasibility study, and then a separate slide about potential outcomes. So I've merged those into this new slide 3. Just raise your hand if you have any input or speak up. When I went back and looked at the League of Women Voters preview, this slide 4, was about a little over a minute of talking, and I'm wondering if it's an area where we think we could scrap it. There isn't data on here that's well, it's I'm just opening that up for discussion, I guess, do we think this is an area that could be merged into one of the other slides about the points being raised here? It just felt a little bit weaker.
I'm looking at this slide as the point being raised is MSBA already did the legwork to define Robinson as a dramatic need for the education community within the town. And I believe that's covered in multiple places.
Yeah.
So my vote would be to take it out.
Lindsay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm wondering if in slide 5 we could voice over, spend 5 to 10 seconds voicing over what the content of this slide, but only using slide 5. And maybe that interior, I really like the interior picture of Robinson though. So could we use that somewhere else? The one on slide 4, the interior picture.
Yeah, I know it's like maybe I can work it onto like slide 8 that we kind of land on, because all these other slides are pretty jam-packed with text.
Yeah.
Or the beginning somewhere. So I hear your point, because I that was also sort of my hesitation. Dr. Chu and Jeff. So Jeff has been doing slide 5. Do you feel like we can merge the talking point of sort of that external MSBA validation like that landed on Robinson as the SOI? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that can be included into the previous slide. That when I'm talking about basically this is the outcome, why Robinson, it's all there. Like, because right when you start talking about Robinson, I think I could do that in a phrase or two, and not so that then it's already set before Jeff then talks about 5.
That's perfect.
I'll be kind of a dissenting voice, and I kind of like it, actually. I think it just keeps driving home the point. If I'm just trying to step back and be a person that might be, think about the perspective of a person that's just kind of hearing this for the first time, I think this is a point, even if it's redundant, I think this is a point to really drive home as much as possible. So I rather like it.
Is there any specific point, John, that you think drives that home for us? Is it the external piece of MSBA? Is it the photo? Is it just that Robinson is the highest need?
Yeah, I think it's the first 2 specifically that you mentioned, that there's a third party that's reviewed this, and according to a rubric of what they feel is necessary across the state, this falls into the highest need category. The picture does say a lot as well. And I think the point that this is the one that needs the most attention across our schools, I think is a little it doesn't hit quite as hard for me because I think it's a relative that's kind of a relative data point, but you know, greatest need across the state I think is important. I think
Yeah.
if this were maybe like going, if I think if we were going back in front of the select board again, then I might be fine dropping this one because I think they kind of understand it. But I'm just trying to imagine, talking to a room full of people that may not have heard much of this before, and I'm kind of okay with this part being repeated. To me, this was really kind of critical in my understanding of how of the situation, those two data points specifically.
Let me ask this question of Kristen. Who drives the slides at during the meeting? Are we in control or is somebody else doing it for us?
Usually it's Steve Wirch and we just say next slide, next slide.
Okay. Because I think, I mean, based on what John is saying, and now that, Valerie did a great job kind of going back and looking at the timing. I think that if we say that we want that information, but I only have 15 to 20 seconds, I'll do it.
Okay.
I mean, that to me is just memorizing the script. And so it's just that I don't have any problem with that. So I think to John's point, if we can see it for 20 seconds,
Yeah.
we just reiterate it, it does the point. If I just know, okay, I don't have to, this new slide doesn't generate another minute's worth of speech.
Okay.
I wonder if I highlighted, do we take that statement out? Because that's sort of a repeat from the previous slide.
That's a good point.
Yeah, if there's something else that can fit in there.
Or to just remove it, like we could kind of move, if we remove that text, maybe the picture gets a little bit bigger. Maybe that really kind of hammers home. Like you said, I really appreciate, John, your perspective of someone that's hearing this for the first time, right? Because we have given this presentation a handful of times to some of the same people. So I think that's really important. And one of the tours reminded me of people that haven't been inside the building in many years. So I think that could be powerful.
And I think that whole,
oh, sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that whole paragraph could go away because if it says why Robinson, yes, the good English person would want to then say Robinson has the most pressing facility needs, but that doesn't have to say that on the slide. We can just say those two things, boom. The biggest part, I think, to John's point is that bolded statement, greatest needs across the state with the largest impact to the local community.
Okay.
And then
Great.
it's just sitting there, and that's a nice, strong image.
Okay. Thank you. Great conversation. I appreciate that. So we still have, then we would move into Jeff speaks about the needs at each of the buildings in the preview. Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but you kept it to 1 minute and 20 seconds, which was great.
I thought I was even shorter than that. I was shooting for brevity.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it was good.
All right. I'll tighten it up a little bit, Valerie.
And then one of the other sort of bigger changes is I worked to combine, remember we had those two slides. One was like the three big bullet points of what's included in the feasibility study. And then the second slide was the breakdown of the budget. And I don't know how Lindsay felt giving that, but listening to it, it felt kind of redundant.
Redundant.
Yeah. So what I did was I added the amounts onto this page, but kept the text and then, and then added this second section below about how we determine the cost estimate. This is one of the areas I think that we're hearing the most about is what is the number? Why did you get there? What does it get us? How is that number validated, sort of? So it's this would be the more area to spend our time if we're prioritizing our minutes. So I don't want it to feel cramped, but I also thought one slide where we're spending a minute or two on really leaves this most important information up the longest.
Yeah. I made a couple tweaks to the sub bullets just
Great.
to flow to like my talking points a little
Sure.
bit better and to address comments we had from the last week from
The
a few
outreach.
attendees from
Yep.
yeah.
Great.
I like this reformat.
Any other reactions from other members? And the other slide is still in
Just,
backup.
I'm just
Go ahead.
curious if 6, could you just flip back to 6 for a
Yep.
second? Is it possible, would it make sense to move 6, to swap 6 and 5?
So why Robinson? Why does it cost 1.6?
Because then you kind of get into
Here's our other
the,
needs.
yeah,
I like that because I also think one thing, Jeff, when you're doing this slide is to really hone in the point that reiterates like option 4 with the or 3 or 4, I forget what option, would like this project could enable us to save costs long term by consolidating facilities. And it's kind of like a takeaway from for community members who may not be solely focused on just Robinson.
Okay.
That's my thoughts.
Yeah. Anyone else have a reaction to that? Let's see how that looks.
I'm fine with layout and content, what you said on it. My only comment was there's a lot of technical things in there.
On
I
this
have
one?
no problem if a question is asked, if you want to kind of receive it and deflect it to me.
For
Right.
this slide 5, Steve?
Yeah,
Do
just
slide
anything
5.
with OPMs, layouts, civil, architectural. Like,
Great.
why is it 900,000? Like, I can give you all, I can answer their technicalities, so you don't have to. Just pass it to me.
Yeah,
Great.
that's helpful, Steve. And I think I'm going to be presenting this slide. I presented it the other night. So I think between the two of us, we'll be able to handle questions.
I retract my offer.
No, like I think
No,
I
a
think
team effort, please.
yeah.
And
I think passing
problem.
a question or two to you will be
powerful,
be
compelling.
powerful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
Okay. Great.
We have
Thanks.
different perspectives, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I think it's all the more useful to kind of demonstrate the knowledge that we have on this committee, right?
Yeah,
Is that it's
exactly.
not just coming from
Yeah.
the same old faces.
Yes.
Okay, I can't, was that John that suggested that? Thanks for that suggestion about reordering them. I think that works well. So then again, that was the combination. So we're going to speak to, Lindsay's going to speak to what's covered in that and how we got to that number. But there is the breakdown of the budget is, the slide is still in backup. And we still have this slide in backup as well, if we think that this is helpful for other people to see. And that QR code links to that Wilmington report so that anyone in the audience might be interested in loading that with our boosted Wi-Fi. So then it would just wrap up with slide 7. I think I need to rewatch and kind of trim myself here a little bit so that it's what's left up on the screen, but doesn't need to be read each bullet point. And then we have our website for further information. I also added the votes from other boards and committees onto the first slide while we do introductions. Hopefully, I think it's powerful that those are all unanimous votes, but and it'll be in the motions booklet for town meeting attendees, but I think up there is also a great place to have it. Anything else on slides? Oh yeah.
Valerie, if we're gonna leave an image up for potentially while questions are being asked, I mean, can we leave the yes vote means no vote means, because it's not advocating for a response, but that's really might be a more helpful thing for people to be ruminating
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's how we kind of had envisioned it. So
Can you Oh,
These slides, once I get everybody's blessing on them, I'll send them over to Steve and we can just keep them handy about, oh, Steve, go back to this one while we're answering this question, or, kind of figure that out real time.
Yeah, I would, but to that end, if this is our goal, then I would move the supporting document slide to be the first backup. So that even the person running it sees that, oh, okay, I'm not gonna put backup slides up, right? Unless we ask for them.
Okay.
When you send that to Steve, if you can also just send it to Dan and I will put it up on the website under Article 7.
Yep. Great. Sorry, Steve, I can't tell. Were you about to say something?
I'm trying. No worries. Are we allowed on this slide, if this is the one we're leaving up, are we allowed to put the status of the previous committee's votes? Where is that influencing the?
So that will be in the motions document packet that everybody will have in front of them. So I think that this committee should just determine what's most important, having the yes, no vote slide up, or, and most people will be turned to the page with the recommendations on Article 7 in their packet documents.
Are we allowed to bold anything, or does it have to stay neutral in presentation?
As long as it's factual and not an opinion, bold, italics, upside down, I don't think it matters.
There's like when we try to accentuate in presentations like points, like we're bolding them, making them stand off the page for all intent and purposes eye candy to attract you to. So like the town will have to restart the process. Like that would be bolded because that like sends the message home.
Yep.
That so I like from a presentation standpoint, like bolding and pulling things to the forefront to communicate a message usually resonates with people.
We probably want the 48.05% to always be bolded for that matter too.
I struggle with this because I want to bold it all. Like Robinson will be continue to be used as is. Any repairs will be the sole responsibility of the town. But Steve, if you have any feedback, please, or any specifics, let me know.
Sole responsibility of the town, I would bold.
Great. Any others jump out at you?
Brought back to future town meeting, I would bold on yes. My points being that, like, in my head, this isn't the one vote and you're done community. Like, we're going to come back with more information. And if you don't want to go ahead, then, we're a ways out.
Yep. Great. Thank you. I forgot my train of thought though. Okay. I think I was going to show, I know what it was. It's going to show if you, how do I stop share? Sorry. Just going to jump to this other tab and show if you haven't been, just something as Kristen was talking, I want to make sure everybody knows what she's referring to. If you haven't been to town meeting in a while or at all, here's the printout of what we're calling the motions booklet. So as you vote, you're flipping through this packet of information, and the committee votes will be right here. So I think that's a good reminder, but I just wanted everybody to be able to see that. And then just to check on sort of what our websites look like for information, the town government town meeting page brings you to 2025 annual town meeting. And then all the articles have folders on the side with information. Right now, just our tour video and FAQs and the yes, no table are there. And then we'll get this slideshow up there as well for people who like to peruse the information ahead of time or while they're sitting there at the meeting. And then in case you haven't been in a while, our school website, we've added the yes, no table as well. The flyer is up with the eye-catching design, and those 4 frequently asked questions are up here, as well as all the information at the bottom.
And also, Valerie, if you can just go back to the town webpage for 1 second.
Yep.
We also put a banner at the top, so you can see that red button, town meeting, and then annual town meeting, March 22nd. So people don't need to navigate the way Valerie and I are trained to navigate that way, but this is showing up on all town web pages right now through Saturday for easy access.
This one right here. Got it.
Yep.
Yep. It couldn't be bigger, and yet I had to blink.
No, you and I are trained to go a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So town meeting documents right there. Got it. Yep. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Let me stop sharing so I can see you guys again.
Valerie, would you like the Westford K12.us to have the same banner or similar banner, to promote town meeting? Or Chris?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. That's what I was wondering. We'd have to create our own because we can't just use the same one, but we could create one that does the same thing and takes them to that link, or takes them directly to, I mean, we already have something that takes them directly to the Robinson School page.
Yeah, but the red banner might catch their eye a little bit. I can work on it and show it to Val and you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen sometimes like when, I don't know, is it when school is closed or something, you can add like an optional banner right around here.
Exactly.
Yeah, great.
If we are merely using this to point them towards accurate information, then we're fine. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. So we've gone through slides. We've looked at website. Yep, go ahead.
Is there anything on the Robinson School Building Committee page or on the annual town meeting page that talks specifically about what votes are required as the information is in there? Like, are we saying anything about, like, we know that some of the things need a majority, some of the things need 2/3. Does that get explained if somebody was to read that there? Kristen, we've talked about it, but I don't know if I haven't looked to see if it was written anywhere.
So it's in the motions document of what requires a majority versus a 2/3 vote. Generally, the town moderator explains it at the beginning of the meeting that 2/3 votes are required for borrowing or for land purchase or lease. I would have to go to the moderator's page. She may have something about, how town meeting operates. We also abide by town meeting time through our general bylaw. I know this is getting into the weeds and the nitty-gritty, so I think it's more of a moderator question than an us question, to be honest. Unless someone has any other thoughts on that.
I think we could get the question, right? Like, and we'll just answer it when we get it. We got it at the league.
We could. There's also I'm getting questions as to, again, it was similar questions that we had last year when people were asking, why it seemed like why the schools weren't advocating for a specific outcome. And I'm like, well, we can't, but we can point people to accurate information. And so, like, whether the principal, as we've been reminding people that town meeting is happening, and we do that. I do that every year. Every spring, I tell people to, engage in the civic process and participate in town meetings. So we're trying to just make sure we're communicating in ways that we can use those resources to do so.
Great. I think another mention in this Friday's principal newsletters would be great. Because I know it's been sort of focused on the tours and forums that we were holding, but even just a reminder about town meeting would be helpful. Great. Okay, so we've done the slides, looked at the websites. So registrations, the meeting starts at 9 a.m. Does anyone have any general questions about town meeting if you haven't been? Go ahead, Steve.
I, for one, am embarrassed to say I've never gone.
That's
so
okay.
If you don't mind just giving me the surface level logistics of where you want me to meet you, what the expectation is, other than I'll answer the technical questions.
Okay. So it's at WA Gym in the main gym. The main gym holds some number of 600 people. that right?
800.
800, thank you. And so registration starts at 8 a.m., but we do try to start as close to 9 a.m. as possible. So you want to give yourself time, as hundreds of people are walking through the main entrance, and you have to check in with like the town clerk, staff, and volunteers at the iPads. So they'll check that you're a registered voter, and give you a clicker and a motions booklet. And then you can enter into the gym and sit. There's usually the boards, select board, town manager, school committee, and finance committees all sit up front at tables. But there's usually some openings for like town staff. Kristen, would that be okay to sort of direct the committee members if they wanted to sit? There's usually open seats there in the town staff section. Is that okay?
I mean, I would wait and see how it's going, right? We're not to Article 7, so
Okay. So you could come up closer as it
yeah,
starts.
I would come up closer, there will be a consent agenda too. I don't know if many people know what that means. So the moderator will be saying, I'm going to take articles 1, 2, 3, 9, 11, 12, 13, 15, 18, 17, and 23 all together up front. And then we'll start at Article 4, if that all goes well. So I would say to probably, if people want to congregate or sit together, maybe do that from the beginning, or then come up towards the front, around Article 6, we're going to vote to dismiss. So at the end of the capital appropriations, Article 5.
So it might feel slow, but I think it will happen kind of quick, depending on the capital discussion. And there's like a podium up front, a slideshow, there's a stage for the moderator. And as we start the presentation, I'll mention everybody on the committee and introduce you if you're up front. And then I think Lindsay, Dr. Chu, Jeff, and I will go through the slides, but as you said, really try to spread any questions around, especially the industry specific or technical questions.
All right, so you'll want me near you. It's not like you're going to point to me in the audience, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Be somewhere up front, just so in especially
Probably near
like,
the microphones, right? He could go to any microphone, and especially the front microphone, to answer the questions.
No problem. I got you. I'm good.
okay.
Do we expect, we probably expect the overflow to start, people start going in the overflow by like 8:45, 9?
Well,
Like,
so
Should
we did
we try to get there before 8:30?
I would get there before 8:30 if you can. We did a survey which estimates between 500 and 600 people to attend. At the special town meeting last year, we had 666 attendees. So we're going to be teetering right on the edge of that. So I would say 8:30 to be safe, if you could.
Thanks.
And there is, I just the lighter logistics is that there's coffee for sale if you have cash. And if you're still there at lunch, there's a pasta bar in the cafeteria, cash preferred. And
we're changing that to sandwiches because there's not enough people. So
I was saying sandwiches, and then somebody corrected me to pasta.
I know, sorry.
It's okay. Sandwiches, okay. Any other questions anybody has?
Just correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen. Is this an official meeting for the boards?
Yes, it's already posted as an official
Already
meeting for
posted?
all boards and committees. So no need to post a meeting for ourselves individually.
That'd be the official board of your committee if we have a quorum.
Yep. So it's the clerk posted everybody up. So nobody needs to post individually.
Thanks.
And just to translate that happens just in case there's a issue in which a quorum of our committee would deliberate on something, right?
Yep.
So,
yep.
We didn't actually vote a recommendation on this article. This committee hasn't. I'm curious if someone will ask. I mean, I guess you could imagine that there might be. I mean, I'm glad to say that I think the committee, based the way everybody has been speaking, it seems like everybody would be in support. But someone could ask the question.
Good. I didn't even notice that. Is that typical?
I don't know what's typical for Westford or not in terms of building projects. There was, for 51 Main and for the library, there was the Permanent Town Building Committee involved in that. I don't know if they voted a recommendation. I don't have that information in front of me. We could we could all get together on Saturday morning and vote. I wouldn't do it today because it's not on your agenda. It's typical to make a recommendation at town meeting if we do have a quorum, which I think we will. So I would recommend doing it on Saturday morning, first thing.
Okay. So maybe we could plan to head toward, like, if you haven't found me to kind of let me know you're there by like 5 of or 8:45, 8:50. We could plan for that to take a quick vote around then. 8:45 or 8:50. Okay.
Yep.
The only other thing I don't want to forget to say is let's plan for a meeting next Tuesday. Knocking on wood that we'll be able to sort of set our plans for how to move forward with a positive outcome. But either way, I think that would be good timing to check in on the results of town meeting. And then from there, I think we'll sort of set a frequency of meetings after that. But I just want to make sure everybody's blocking off next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Okay.
Nobody wants to leave.
Thanks, John. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
See you
Aye.
Saturday.
All right. See ya.
Thanks, Valerie, for everything you're doing.
Thanks, John.
Great
See you
work.
Saturday.